Hey guys, it's Shane here again, and today we're having another look into more of the vehicles of legend. Now today we're going to look at the Imperial Guard tanks that you can no longer take in competitive, you can only take it in sort of open match play. And we're looking at a couple that aren't even that, so there's a lot for these. But of course that's the Imperial Guard's thing, so let's get straight into it. First off, we're looking at the Salamander Command Vehicle. Now this was an open top type Chimera. It can make a scout movement, which is kind of useful. Currently in the legendary rules, though, it only has the Auspex Surveyor rule, which gives enemy unit, you pick an enemy unit within 24, and then units within 6 of the tank can ignore its cover. Big deal. So that's a pretty big nerf from the previous edition, where it could just buff a vehicle and give it +1 to hit. That was, could really help. So that was better, and even older, when its rules first came in, it had a lot more flavor, because it could reroll the reserves checks, preliminary bombardment roll, and it gave a free shot against units trying to infiltrate, so it synced more with the army. Overall though, now it's a HQ choice that would really underperform and be overcosted, so I wouldn't recommend it. The next version of this is the Salamander Scout Tank, which isn't terrible for a cheap, fast vehicle that can do its pre-game movement, but all it really had was an autocannon, which is alright, but for the same price you can get 2 Scout Sentinels, which do the exact same thing, would have more health, and just do the job a lot better. So, yeah, it's not really a good choice anymore. There's a lot better things you could do than the Salamander Scout now. Next we're looking at the Atlas Recovery Tank. Now, this is a fun model. I love looking at it. It's a real cool concept, but it's really no longer relevant, as tanks don't immobilize anymore. So its ability to move them around and keep them mobile isn't used anymore. So they've lost that completely. So its only ability now is just to restore D3 wounds to a vehicle, but you got an engine seer that can do that. Before, it just helped the engine seer make its role to fix things. Like, they worked in tandem. Now it's, both separate. So, it really just doesn't have a place anymore, which is a real big shame. I always really like this model. Okay, so next we got the Trojan Support Vehicle. So this was removed entirely. It wasn't even put into Legends. But you can still buy this vehicle. This is available still at Forge World. It just has no rules, which is really weird. One of the reasons was it could just be too strong. So it was a Chimera, based on the Chimera, could only transport 6 models though, but it gave a tank full rerolls to hit. So that was amazing. You give it to a Baneblade, Russ, it was so good. And that was a real upgrade from its original rules, because it was similar to the Atlas, where it would just tow artillery batteries. That was it. So if you want to still use it in the game, it'd be hard to balance, but it's a real strong choice. All right, then we got the Taurus vehicles. We have the Assault and the Venator. Now, these were very small, fast, 6-wheel vehicles, had no real armor, but they were cheap, they were hit and run, they could do some decent damage. It had a really interesting invuln save based on how fast it was going. There isn't a rule that there isn't a model that replaced these guys. So I'd say still bring them. I think they fit, they're fun, All right, now we're looking at the Griffin Mortar Carrier. Again, based on the Chimera chassis. It's like a smaller artillery tank than, say, your Manticore or your Wyvern. So it's in that odd spot where it's, goes from mortar team to large artillery tank. The previous editions, you could take ammo variants, which it could fire smoke on friendly units, it could light up the enemy, and have these different damage types. Currently, it's put in a position that it's not that much better than a lot of the other things you could take. It's a fun looking model, but there's a lot better options you can use than this guy. Now, the Destroyer Tank Hunter. Previously, this was the best tank to use to take down other tanks and big models. Based on the Rust chassis, but instead of the turret, it's just one giant gun in the center. The Laser Destroyer is a good weapon. It's really strong, But now, of course, with the update to the rules, you can get a Russ with a Vanquisher cannon that is just going to outperform it. The Vanquisher cannon is, yeah, a lot better now with updated rules, and the Russ is stronger and tougher than this guy. So there's no reason to take the Tank Hunter anymore, unfortunately, which is, yeah, a shame. I'd love this model. All right, so we got the Centaur Light Carrier. This was a very small transport vehicle. It only take about 5 men, so a small squad. It could also tow stationary artillery, which isn't really a thing anymore. So it doesn't really have a place. It's very rare you'd be needing to field around small 5-man squads in a vehicle. I can't think of a good reason to bring these guys anymore. All right, and there are a couple patterns of Chimera, the Storm and the Griffin pattern, which have sort of been looked over. It really wasn't that different. The Griffin had I think the Krieg subword. It was part of their army, but all it really was you replace the multi-laser with the autocannon, and then for the Storm, or vice versa, it was just you could take a twin heavy bolter or an autocannon, which gives it a bit harder hitting power than a normal Chimera. So I'd say give it a try. If someone wants to bring it, I'd allow them. It's just giving more weapon options, and that's never a bad thing. Choice is never a bad option. Now the Macarius Omega. This is an odd one, as the other Macarius tanks are still available. It's just, I think they stopped selling the Omega pattern with its big plasma cannon. So it's just Legends now, and I don't know why they stopped making and selling it. It might have been the case of them losing the molds for it, which happens, and then it's just better to stop selling it than pay to create a new mold for it. The plasma cannon still is really good on paper. It's pretty balanced, so I can't see many people objecting it to being used. Now, the Dominus Siege Bombard. This is a very cool idea for a super heavy tank based on the Crassius chassis. Seriously lethal firepower on this guy. It will decimate from all ranges. The main issue, though, it never had an official model. And because of that, in this time period, basically everything that didn't have a model had to be put into Legends. So I'd still let someone use it. I still think it should be in the game because it has its own special purpose. So I think it should still be there. Now the Storm Hammer, getting its Legend status, I think comes down to it being shifted towards being like a heresy only tank. Because you can still buy the model from Forge World. It's just under the Solar Auxilia Stormhammer. But it's basically the same model. But the thing is, you really wouldn't want to use it because the updated Storm Sword model, pretty much the same cost as the Legends one and does the same damage, if not more. So there's not really point picking the Storm Hammer. You already have other very similar options. The Gorgon Heavy Transport. This is an awesome looking model. Real World War II sort of trench fightings and storming the beach aesthetic. And this is a really odd one because it's Legends, but you can still buy this. And it's in the 40k section of Forge World. Like this isn't removed. So it's available on the website, but it has no up-to-date rules essentially. But I think it's really cool. It's just a really big transport, which makes sense for Guard. And if you can think of a better way to transport Ogryn platoons, I'd like to hear it. Lastly, I just wanted to talk about the Leman Russ choices that are no longer available. First one being the Annihilator pattern. Now, this had the twin Lascarons for the turret, which isn't a great option anymore, because having just the 2 shots is not great for when, a Leman Russ's goal is just shoot a lot of shots. It's not as accurate, but, eventually you'll hit something. So having precision sort of guns on it isn't really suited. And the other one, of course, is the Conqueror, which had a coaxial Storm Bolter and Heavy Bolter. This made the battle cannon shorter range, but it allowed free rerolls to hit. So that was your trade-off, which isn't bad. So I'd sort of let either one go through. Alright, well that's it for this one, guys. I'll try and finish off the Xenos Model 1 soon. But until then, I'll see you next time.